because obviously we met doing martial arts, right?
Yeah.
Well, BJJ specifically. So at this point, are you training at this point? Have you done any
Yeah,
training at
always
this
been
point?
training. Started kickboxing when I was 14, just when I
Okay.
started high school.
Okay.
My dad hooked me up with a job. So I did AV installations. I was the apprentice there. When I turned 14, he was like, cool, like, I'm not giving you money anymore. You get a job. You can do it on the weekends and in the holidays, and there's your money. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, cool. I've never been afraid to work anyway.
Yeah.
And my boss then, he got me into kickboxing because he was a sensei. So he got
Okay.
me into the club where he was training at. And then he mentored me the whole way through. He was kind of like a big brother to me always. We used to hit the gym together. We'd train together. We'd spar together. And he was a fucking machine too. So it was not the kind of dude you wanted to fuck with. He's
Yeah. So what? So was you competing or was you just training?
No, competing. Always competing. Started when I was 14. Didn't compete a lot up until did like 1 or 2 tournaments there in the beginning. Then we changed clubs, and from about green belt to blue belt, competing the whole time. Like we do all the district ones that we do our district and the district next to us, and nationals every year, and all the small ones in between. Like anything you could get, we'd go.
Really good.
Good club too, man. We trained hard. Yeah, but I was
really
alright, huh? Yeah. A couple of I don't think I ever didn't take a gold for district, and then I got 3 national championships. One purple belt, and then brown to black, 2 national championships, MMA light, and points fighting. Sports karate.
Yeah.
So that was I don't know if you know ISKA, International Sports Karate, like Michael Venom Page.
Yeah.
He started out in that.
Okay.
And what's the guy coming up now? Raymond Daniels too. Don't know if you've seen him.
Yeah,
He's also he's the best points fighter in the world until he just moved over now. So it was that. Plus we do the other contact and stuff.
Okay.
But that was I think that last one, brown to black, was my first tournament in about a year. I'd taken a break because I'd come here, obviously. So about a year and a half. I was pretty child. It was my first one at black belt too. I was like, I was a bit.
A little bit nervous, must have been.
Yeah, but it went well. I trained hard, man. I hit it for like 3 months straight, twice a day. I got there and I was like, okay, there we go. I still got it.
And they couldn't hang with you, no?
No, I was all right. I made them. It was a big division too. I was happy.
Yeah,
the MMA one, the one that I got, it was like 2 guys in that division. So that didn't really count. But that other goal, I'll take that. It was a big division. My first one at black. I was like, and they all been training the whole year, been getting ready. At about 2 months. So I was probably the one I was the proudest of. Because it was the first time with the big boys. I was still brown belt, but it was brown to black was the divisions. And it was my first senior competition too. It's the first time I trained once I was over the age of 18. So I weren't kids no more. It was with the men.
The big boys, yeah?
Yeah, with the big boys.
All right, that's impressive, man. That's impressive. So, all right, so you're training over there, and then you come back. Why did you come back?
I was stagnating. I was working in a bar, which I really enjoyed because it's a social aspect. You get to work, and I was part running the dojo too. So my sensei, he's big into bass fishing, and he was second in the country for bass fishing. So he went over to the States a lot to compete over there. So I'd run the dojo in between. I'd been doing kids classes before that too, doing my own privates. So I was doing that.
So you come back, and what do you do?
I came over. I started working immediately. I ended up doing a bit of building.
Okay.
And that was that. I had a mate. He hooked me up with that. I got into that. Quite enjoyed it. And as soon as I came over, I started getting tattooed as well. So I came over again in 2016. October 2016. And then January 2017, I started my sleeve, started my first thing. So I was working. That's pretty much what I did. I spent all my money on that. My mother was horrified because that's what I got tattooed for 8 hours once a month, and then twice a month, and then once a month, and then twice a month. That was it. Like, that's all I did.
Jeez. What, 8 hours straight?
Yeah, that was it. Well, it's a whole day. So we got a little bit of lunch in between. Probably get, to be fair, you're looking at about 6.5, maybe 7 on a push. Depends what we're doing on the day.
Yeah.
And yeah, I went in hard. I haven't stopped getting tattooed since then. So that's kind of how the tattooing thing came around. Done the building for a while.
Yeah.
I used to. When did I start jiu-jitsu? It was that year too. I think it was more towards the end of that year. I was working at the gym, and then I wanted to start training again. I was looking to start some kickboxing, but I couldn't find anywhere in the area that I wanted to go, or because I'd also, like, I've been training for so long, that I was just going to go to anyone either. And all the decent places that I would have wanted to train were like in London or something. And I was like, well, I can probably round my game a little bit. So that's how I got into the jiu-jitsu thing. And they were right down the road. That was still when it was BJJ Hertfordshire. And I done my first class, and I was like, oh, these guys are gold, man. Like, what a great environment. So I was like, all right, cool, I'm stuck in here. And from there, that's kind of I gravitated towards the tattooing thing. I used to do Saturdays in the shop as like a desk bitch. He needed someone on the weekend, and he was like, oh, don't I want to do like a Saturday 4 times a month? So every Saturday I go in, and he'd give me an hour or so off of my total when I get tattooed. So I pretty much worked for tattoos. So it was, oh, cool. Did that for a while. And then when I was going to renew my visa, he was like, well, if I get my visa and I want to stay, like, would I be interested in doing an apprenticeship? Fuck yeah. Crack onto it.
Yeah. So
yeah.
No, I was just going to say, are you, so have you always been an arty person as well? Have you always been able to draw?
Not too much. The drawing was never a thing for me. I painted, high school, took art. I just never really attempted drawing. To me, I just always couldn't draw because I couldn't draw like my mates that could draw. But practice makes perfect, as was most things. So as I went on and I drew more, I was like, oh shit, I can kind of do this. Pretty good. I'd say painting still more the strong suit, like with the colors and stuff. But it gets better as I go. Wouldn't say like 100% naturally gifted in it. Because there's some people, I mean, you just can't compete with them. I know some people, you see them sit down and draw some wild shit from scratch. Wow, that's crazy.
But then that poses the question: is anything naturally gifted? Is it all practice? If you're interested in something from a young enough age, just like with, I don't know, kickboxing, for example. Yes, you probably did have some skills or some natural gifts, but do you think it was the practice that made you that good?
I don't know, man, because I'm a firm believer that some people are just better than other people at shit. Like, there's some people, and you can always work harder than someone, and you can make yourself. You can never say you should at something, because you can get good at something. But if you competing with somebody who's naturally gifted and talented at a certain aspect, you'll never beat them. Not as hard. You can work as hard as you want to. Like, there's guys out there that are just crazy artists. Like, loony guys sit down for like 3 days in his room, and he's painting mad shit. And then there's other people who are good artists too, but you're never going to be phenomenal like that person. It's natural to them. It's like, you even see it, like, you look in the UFC or any fighting circuit too. Like, there's some guys that are just better, and it's that, like, there's
like the John Joneses.
You know what I mean? Like, there's that. Like, even him, like, he parties, he gets fucked up. Like, everybody trains harder than John Jones, but he's a goat. Like, some people are just better at certain things. And but I don't think that's a reason to get disheartened at things. Like, you should always, if you try and you work hard at something, you can always get to a good level.
That's an interesting thought, because I think there's a window of time where you can bridge the gap, in my opinion. I think like, even if you look at John Jones's last fight, for example, and you look, I think he lost the fight personally, but I'm not a judge. But I feel like that's an example of, like, everybody kind of has their day. Now, if we're talking hypotheticals of prime you versus prime you, then maybe there's an argument to that. But I think there's always a kind of a period, or there is always enough of a fuck up, if you will, where you can, like, literally party too hard, or you can not train
What do you mean?
too much for that amount of
Yeah.
time for this particular person, where you can kind of bridge the gap.
Understood. I get what you're saying, especially in the
Yeah.
martial arts environment or a fighting thing. But any fight is like, it's not about who's better, it's about who's better on the day. That's always been the thing. Like, you make that one slip up, like you say. I mean, it could have been a thing like, oh, you ate too much the previous night or something stupid. Like, there's always that factor in those things.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Do you think it translates to other things? Like, maybe
like,
from an artistic side of you, you've got some guys that are just so phenomenal at things. Like, you'll sit down and they've got that clear image in their mind, and they can project that and make it into something. And you could work your whole life, but you might never just get that tweak that they can put on something, the way they bring it to life.
Let me give you an example. When I was like, we literally saw him the other day, but there was a guy that me and my friends used to cut our hair for us back in the day when we were like 18, 19. He used to just be a mobile barber, used to come around and cut hair. He was the best. He used to put patterns and, you know, like sharp. He was like the best barber in the whole area, right? And then he started to smoke a bit of crack and doing all this other stuff. And he'd still cut our hair for a little while, but then you start seeing the skills waning.
Didn't have that edge.
You did, right. So my point is that yes, natural talent is a huge element of it, but there is so much more that goes into it. Like your lifestyle.
I get
like,
what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, caught you slipping, like.
Huh? No, he never caught me slipping. I got lucky.
No, not you. I'm saying, like, that's how you can get it. You can always catch someone slipping when they start going down a road like that. Yeah, all right, I see what you're saying.
Definitely. So, and I'm just using that as an example just because that's drugs, but it could quite easily be, I don't know, distractions. It could be, I don't know, a relationship. It could be stress at home. It could be just not practicing. That's another thing I wanted to, because you're obviously pretty good at kickboxing, and I've rolled with you, so I know you're pretty good at jiu-jitsu as well. So do you think, how much of an impact do you think a lack of, because obviously now in lockdown, you can't really actively roll with people unless you've got someone in your house that you can roll with. But like, how much do you think a lack of practice impacts on your skill level? Do you think you just stagnate if you don't practice, or do you think you lose ability?
I'd say you lose ability. There's one of those things, like, it's always, you take 1 week off, 2 weeks off training is like a month off training to your body, because you just don't react the same way. Like, you're not geared into that. You'll never, if you got someone who's been training the whole time flat out and you take 3 months off, like, oh no, I've come back after 3 months of not training. You're like, oh shit, man. But I don't know, it's a weird question, because how do you then know if somebody else just hasn't gotten better in that time, or if you've actually lost your skill? But I'd say it's more than stagnation, because you're slow. You don't know, you don't think as much. Like, you get that fight IQ, and you know what's coming. You learn how to move with it. You learn how to perceive things and see them coming. Okay, you know, well, if I do this, he's going to do that, then I'm going to do this, and you roll on. And when you're rusty, that stuff isn't always there. Like, you have to try harder. So where you could be training at 50% and hold your own, now you come back and you have to give 100% just to survive, because you're not on that level anymore. But I think maybe not skill loss, but physical loss. Like, you definitely lose physically.
That's where I was. That's what I was. I was thinking that I think physical, not just like arms and legs, but even physically, like maybe your brain slows down. So you've still got the information, but maybe you can't fire to do certain things in the moment. You're not quite as reactive, or
and you get rusty. I think it also depends on how long you've trained. Like, we're coming into it, you know, anything under like purple belt, if you're not training the whole time, like, that is not ingrained in you yet. So you can lose things. But if you're at black belt and you've been training for X amount of years, you know, like 8-10 years, and you don't train for a month, like, when you come back, you might be a little tired, but you're not putting your hand in the wrong place. Like, you're not doing dumb shit, you know. Like, with us, maybe, you'll shoot an arm bar and it's like really loose because you forgot to close that gap to scoot in something. But those kind of people have been training for that long, don't make those kind of mistakes. It's like, I've done kickboxing for about 7 years, and I haven't trained for 3, maybe just going on a little bit more. But I can still do a roundhouse. Like that's never going to go away. But if you've just been training for like a year and you haven't trained for 5 years or so, 3 years, like you're not going to be able to. Your body can't do that. You don't have that muscle memory.
Yes.
You have it because that kind of it changes your body too over those years. You'll see it like boxers. You can see someone who boxes. They got a different build, and you'll see someone who does like kickboxing too. They got a different build. Jiu-jitsu, you can tell because their hands are all fucked up and stuff. See, he's walking with a limp, and he's got a couple of
his fingers are all just mangled.
Looks like he's got gang sign arthritis.
So I was thinking about even what's it called? Like what's his name? Like Donald Cerrone to me, he looks like how he just moves. Obviously, not necessarily like the cowboy hat, but see, like when he's in the ring and how he moves, he just moves like how I would assume. That's what I see a kickboxer as moving, like body type, like his calves and ankles are just like it's just
you can see it in them. Like you got a boxer too. Boxer's got big calves, big shoulders, kind of slim physique the rest of the way, depending on weight. Like kickboxers, you'll always see because they always got a weird. One shoulder is always a little bit bigger than the other one or smaller because you're using different muscle fibers and got a weird tilt in your hips maybe. Like kickboxers you'll always see too because his right calf is fucking massive compared to his left calf because you're fighting orthodox. So we've obviously got more time on that side. So I think jiu-jitsu definitely, I don't know, just because he's broken. I don't know how guys do that for so long and come out okay, man. That is the most brutal physical training you could ever do.
I think that's the best thing. The best thing I did was to start training later. I feel like if I'd started training, even though I want to be good now, like if I'd been training from younger, I'd be better than I am now. But I feel like as long as I maintain, I feel like I can have a longer time before my body breaks down.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, it's one of those things you really got to be mindful of what you're putting through, what you're putting your body through. In that, like, I mean, I don't stand up for all those years, and I bust a knee. That's it. Like, and that's one of those things that you got to sacrifice a knee if you're doing martial arts. You got to offer it up to the gods. Like that's it. You got to lose a knee. But nothing else is wrong. Like my ankles maybe click a little bit, but you're doing jiu-jitsu for like 7 or 8 years. Something's gonna go, man. You don't see no guy that's been doing it for that amount of time, and he's like, nah, I ain't got no injuries. Like, and I was working a bar at night, and then I do AV in the day. So it was pretty much like I'd work a double, and I just got too fucked up, man. Like, I worked 6 nights a week.
That's where it's
I worked 6 nights a week in a bar, and I was fucked every night. That was I can't function behind a bar otherwise. And I got to a stage where I was like, all right, cool, I need to pull myself out of this. And my town's a cesspool too. It's beautiful, it's lovely, but everyone is bang on it. Like that's it. You'll be working the bar. Dudes will come over and be like, Brandon, can you look after our beers? Like, and they're the nice ones. They're gonna go chop a line in the car at least. Like, the rest are in the bathroom. Or it's got a little bit hectic. So I was like, all right, cool. Maybe it's time to go back again. And the way things are at the moment in South Africa too, like political climate especially, and economically, like if you have that, there's so many people looking for an out to leave the country. And there's no way I was going to make it there at my age coming up now too. Like there's not a lot of hope or prospect for things like that anymore. So I was like, oh, I might as well. I've got that opportunity. Like I'm pretty much sitting on a British passport too, which means I can go and travel and see shit. And George, man, like if you get sucked into George is like it's like a time capsule. You could leave for 10 years and come back and go to that bar, and the same people are sitting in the same place at the bar talking about the same shit, drinking the same drink, and it's like, do I want to be that guy?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. So you land back. So you land back to England.
Yeah.
And it's still cold up at IR2.
Yeah, it's cold. I came in October again.
All right. So what do you do? So obviously you come back to be with you're with your dad, obviously.
Yeah.
But before we even go there, what's your mum doing all this time when you're over here? You're an only child. What's she up to back home?
She's all right. She runs a guest house. She manages a guest house. So she stays on the guest house, and it's fucking beautiful, man. It's like, there's a main building. There's the 4 rooms. It's quite a small one. It's a German guest house.
Okay.
And I think they just pretty much have it. So they've got a holiday destination to go to every time.
Right.
I just love it there. But it's gorgeous. So she's been doing that for about 8 years now.
Okay.
So she's all right. She's cool. She does that, potters on with her thing. She got herself a dog too, so it's okay. She misses me. We talk a lot.
Okay.
I mean, it's got to happen some other time, huh?
Yeah.
She knows too. She was also happy I left. I think she saw it coming. She was like, "Oh God, I hope he gets out."
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's over there, but she's been doing that the whole time. She likes it, man. She gets her own time. She does her thing. It's really, really beautiful. I don't think you couldn't complain about living there. It's like paradise, all the way out of town, fucking pool, everything is just green. It's jokes.
Wow.
Yeah, good retirement.
So has she been over? Has she been over in that time or no?
Nah, she's been over to Germany to go visit her bosses, and she just refuses to fly again. She won't. She's she can be a bit weird like that, but she's claustrophobic too, so she don't like small spaces. But like, my mother won't drive anywhere if anyone else is driving her, because she drives better than everyone else. And she doesn't want to fly because she doesn't know who the pilot is, and what if it goes out? And I'm like, but you realize you've got more of a chance of like getting in an accident in a car. No, I won't do it.
Yeah.
So she bought a car a while back, now like a couple months, and it was all the way in Joburg. And Joburg's 1,200 kilometers from us. So what's that in miles? I think it's like 900 miles or something, round about there. And she didn't want to fly there, because she doesn't want to fly, but she's got to get the car. And she doesn't want to drive with somebody else because she doesn't trust their driving so fast. So she wants to like find a car that she can drive down for somebody that's selling it so that she can come back. But she's like that. She's not going to fly. And she's like, oh, and it's cold there. And I'm like, it's nice. You just come in summer. And that one don't fly. So I'll go back every 2 years.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Yeah, we kind of touched on the martial arts. We might touch back and give Rogue Jiu-Jitsu a shout out a little bit later. I want to talk about love with you. All right.
Yeah.
So you had this relationship back then we spoke about. Yeah. So you had this relationship. You was young love, whatever. Since then, obviously, it's interesting to me now, but even more just because I feel there's like we're both similar in the sense that we were both raised by a single mum by herself. We're both only children, raised as only children anyway, and that dynamic. I'm interested. How have you navigated the relationship side of things throughout your life? Are you a relationship person? Are you a career bachelor? Like how?
I see where you're getting at.
Yeah.
I think firstly, being raised by a single mother changes how you see relationships a lot of the time too. Like, because you're different. I think you learn to respect women a lot more too, because that's that influence you've had. But I'd like to think my mother taught me to make good decisions at least. But no, I wouldn't say career bachelor. I don't really like dating though. I've dated like 2 women in my entire life. The rest of it was like, maybe a bit of a fling, headed from there. But no, I'm picky. I don't get into that shit quickly. Maybe it's because they've all been fuck ups. You look and you're like, oh shit, man, I can't deal with that stuff again. Like, that's mad.
Yeah. So, similar. Yeah.
But I've never been one to date because I don't want to be alone. I don't understand people that do that either. Yeah. That's a bit weird. I think you see that a lot. Like, I know a lot of people will just roll out of a relationship into another one because I don't know, maybe they can't face the fact of being alone. I enjoy being alone. So for me, if I'm going to date someone, like, you got to make things a little bit better for me. You know? I'm not going to make my life more difficult just because I want to get laid or I don't want to be alone.
All right, that's fair. But look, you're a pretty sociable person. I mean, you're charismatic, all of this stuff. You've got a good personality. You know how to talk to people. So, pardon me, I find it hard to believe that in all these years you haven't met somebody who is worthy of that.
Dated a couple along the way, like I said I had a crazy one.
Yeah.
There's one after that. That was years later, though. But I mean, I worked a bar for 3 years too. You don't want to get into no relationship when you're working a bar, man. Like that's why are you shooting yourself in the foot?
So this is it's another thing that resonates with me. So do you think your experience of life has colored your view of either relationships or of the women that you come into contact with?
100%. Always. It's one of those things. I think, there's a joke they always say you always end up marrying a mother, which you get those qualities in them. And like, I don't know, man, maybe I haven't met anyone as crazy as my mum yet. So. But no, she always taught me to at least pick my battles. So I look for those kind of qualities that my mother has in people. And if that's not there, then I'm not really too bothered, man. That's one of those. But I think I've made enough bad decisions along the way that I look at it and I'm like, I can already tell you crazy. Like, I'm not going to get myself involved here because it's just not worth it. Like, and then everyone's got little irks. Like there's certain things that'll be like, I can't dig that, man. Like, and I've hit it off with a couple of birds and I had to call it quits too because they didn't make their bed or something. Like, I can't do that, man. Like that throws me off. Like, I already know small things like that. I'll be like, that's going to be a problem in a couple of years. If you don't do that, I know you don't do some other shit.
Yeah. See, it's interesting, man.
I'm picky.
Yeah, I think we all are. But I think what the truth of the situation really is that as much as our mothers, for example, we hold them to this high regard. Remember, our interaction with them is purely as mother to son.
Yeah,
so
the dynamic is different when you're in a relationship.
Right. So in a relationship, then they're not unflawed human beings. So there is almost a level of compromise that you have to make in order to find what it is that you actually want.
Always, it's one of those things. But then, even with the level of compromise, you have to sit and think. There's certain things like everything that irks you in the beginning of a relationship, towards the end or as you go on, like shit's gonna start pissing you off. It kind of wears off, and you also got to choose. Like, that bothers me now. That's going to be an issue later.
Yeah.
But I'd say for me, I dated some crazy chicks too. Like I said, I dated like 2-3 birds, but damn, man, like. So I'd rather just save myself the issue. Like if I see something that I know is a red flag, why are you going to get yourself into some trouble, fair. Man? Like, free,
That's fair. That is fair.
You got to choose which battle you're going to fight.
That is fair. That's fair. It's just interesting to me. Just when I hear that, because I know that I was very much maybe I'll be perceived as being I was afraid of commitment, or I just wasn't interested
in it.
Yeah, I just wasn't.
I can agree with you on that. It's not something that bothers you.
Yeah, that's where it was. That's where I was, and then obviously.
But when it comes about, then it kind of happens. I suppose you could say I've never gone looking for it. Like by the sounds of it, you're in the same thing. Like it's not something you need to look for, is it?
No, but now I'm off the market now, and the reason why I'm off the market now is because I made a decision to be off the market, in the sense of obviously that's why I use the term career bachelor, because that's what I was. I was a career bachelor. I used to taekwondo block every single sniff of a relationship in my life. Get lost.
Yeah, it's getting a bit serious now.
Yeah. I'm out of it. So that is my angle. But then it got to the point where I was like, it's about that time. So I switched my focus and I just didn't approach, or I didn't follow through with anything that I didn't see as possibly growing into something. And then,
Yeah.
the second woman that I met after that is who I ended up marrying,
You just knew.
Yeah, I did. Pretty early as well. Like a little bitch.
Yeah. Well, you got to hang on, man.
Yeah, no, yeah. To be fair, it's true. It's true. I was very. It
How old were
was.
you?
This was. I met my wife now in 2016.
Yeah.
We got engaged in 2017. We got married 2018, and
Nice.
this September
The
will
rest
be
is
2 year
history.
wedding anniversary. Yeah,
And how old are you now?
I'm 38 now.
Yeah, you see, man, I'm 25 this year. I ain't gonna worry about that shit,
Oh,
yeah, man.
you're pretty. Yeah, okay. See, 25 and you're smashing me up on the jiu-jitsu mats, man. This is terrible. I need to go do some press-ups right now. Oh, jeez. Okay. All right. So yeah, to be fair, you've got plenty of time to
You
kind
know
of
what I mean? Like it
to
ain't
to
something I've given the prospect of having to think about yet.
yeah, no, fair.
So I've always been a firm believer. Things happen when they're supposed to. Yeah, that's one of those. But I think if you go looking for things, sometimes I get what you mean, where you're backing off commitment, which is cool. Yeah, you got to take things as they come, and then you see how it goes. You go along with it. But if you go looking for it, I usually end up in a bit of a fucking mess. I see it. I got loads of mates like that too. Like they're fucking always trying to date someone, and they go looking, and it just never ends up well because
Yeah.
as you go along, like, oh shit, what have I done? I don't really like this person.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you.
You hear too often, man. I don't want to be that old dude that goes to the pub and complains about his missus the whole time. Like I don't understand that shit.
Yeah.
Why are you married, huh?
Yeah. No, I hear you. I do
You're
hear
supposed
you.
to be happy. You don't want to be sitting all grumpy. Oh, my missus don't fuck me. And you're like, well, maybe you should like clean up after yourself or something too, or like it just don't work. Like you've got two totally different people who are like, I'll settle.
No, that's fair.
I'm too nice for my own good too, so I'd end up doing some dumb shit like that. You got to know yourself, man.
No, that's a great segue actually, because that statement that you said is a statement that me and my friends kind of place a lot of importance on. So knowing yourself, how would we can maybe this would be second to last question. Who is Brandon? Who are you? If you was to describe yourself to someone, who's never met you or who doesn't know you, how would you characterize yourself?
That's a difficult one, man. Do I want them
Yeah.
to like me?
Huh? You want to tell them the truth. That's what you want to do. You want to tell them the truth. It's somebody whose opinion that it's someone who you want to give your accurate perception of yourself to. So maybe it's a psychiatrist. That's a question that I use sometimes. So how would a psychiatrist that you've spoken to for however many months, honestly, no bullshit, no fudging around it, she's got to the true you. Or he has got to the true you. How would they describe you?
One word, but an onion.
Okay.
100% an onion. You ever seen that? Remember Shrek? He goes and he's trying to explain himself. There's layers. Like you got to get through. But I don't know. It's an interesting question, I suppose. When you say know yourself, do you ever think about knowing yourself in a way to describe yourself to other people, or is it more you understand those inner workings or the kind of person that you are?
Yes, and the reason I asked a question like that is because I'm approaching it from the point of view of this, even though it's a psychiatrist and somebody outside of yourself, you have shared your true and authentic self with them. This person that you know, you know yourself and you're sharing the intricacies of this person. So how would somebody who knows those intricacies describe you?
It's a difficult question, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I think probably the first thing that comes to mind is just fucking self-destructive. But in a good way. It's when I suppose we've all got you gotta address the fucking elephant in the room at the end of the day. But aside from that, no, I'd say I'm all right, I'm decent. Like, I think the thing that defines you the most is how you treat other people.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, I think to me that's the most important factor, like that I see in anyone else or myself either. Like as you go along, what impact are you making into other people? And I'd like to think that I bring a good impact to the people that I pass along the way. Like, or everyone I've known, they're still friends with me and they still like me. So that must at least say something that I've got something there. And yeah, just an input into people. That would be the biggest factor.
That's interesting. Just because I think it's interesting because it's similar to when I was asked a similar question. It's on the same vein of what I was saying, and I was kind of the response I got was, there seems to be a lot of value, or your self-value is placed a lot in your
what
use
you can do for other people.
Right. So do you feel like that's accurate?
Yeah, I'd say that's accurate.
And do you feel like that's something that, obviously we don't know, we're not going to get philosophical, what's right and what's wrong, but we're going to say, is that something that you're okay with being your value system, or is that something that you think is something that maybe you would look into, seeing if it's the most beneficial way of you approaching life?
No, I'd say it's a good value system. Yeah. I get what you're getting at. No, I think it's a good ethos to have as you go along. Like, I'm a giver at the end of the day. And I think if you can go away and you can help people along.
We're not talking about your sex life here, Brandon.
I was just clarifying, man.
Don't worry. His Instagram will be in the description, everybody.
Yes, there we go. I'll have to drop a couple of pics on there.
Sorry, I digress. Go on.
No. No, I can appreciate that. I think it's a good quality to have. I think especially in the world we live in now, where people can be quite self-centered around people. Everything is me, me, me. You'll see it. That's the way people get caught up in themselves a lot of the time. And at the end of the day, I think the thing that matters most is the people around you and how you can make their lives better. So, I mean, if that can make me happy, making someone else happy, then that's not necessarily a bad thing. But that said, you have to know when to stop.
Okay.
Which
and
is also
how do you know?
that's
How do you know?
Yeah, you know what I mean. That's I think that's also another reason why maybe I don't date as much, because you can get lost in giving someone too much of yourself along the way. And there's a lot of people out there that take advantage of that. Maybe not even in a relationship environment, but even a friendship level. Like, there are a lot of fucking vampires out there. I think that's the one thing you got to look out for. It's a weird predicament, isn't it? You have to learn you want to enrich and give to those people around you, but you also got to look out for yourself at the end of the day and know who's there to take advantage of you and who's going to reciprocate that.
Fair.
And give back, because you pull too much out of the well, it's going to go dry.
Yeah, man. You can't drink from an empty cup.
You can't. And you can't pour out, there's nothing in it. But I'd rather be like that and know myself enough to realize when is the time to stop than be that someone that is self-absorbed or just empties the cup. Don't want to be the sponge.
I hear you 100%. I hear you 100%. Yeah, I do. I hear you 100%. All right.
But that's a difficult question still. I don't think I've ever thought about that.
Yeah. I'm proud
that's
of
one
that
of those
myself.
that's one of those.
I only bring it out for the big guns.
Write something about yourself. Fuck.
Yeah. Something. It's
I like food.
I think we would, if you can cook, you like food. I think the only people that don't like food, are people that can't cook it.
You either live to eat or eat to live, man.
Real talk. I got a friend that literally just ate to live. That's it.
Eats for nutrients, man.
That's it. That's it. But that's why he looks like he looks, and I look like I look.
You got more enjoyment out of things, though.
You damn right I did. Damn right I did. Stones and stones of enjoyment. Oh dear. And finally, are you much of a reader?
Yeah, I enjoy a bit of reading.
Okay, so I will one book recommendation
For you?
But for yes, all right, for me. But if I've read it already, you have to give me another one.
All right, I'm gonna put you out there, Chuks. I'll put you out of your comfort zone, I reckon.
Come on,
Terence McKenna, Food of the Gods. Mad book. Yeah, it's about. So I don't know. Are you much of a trip cat? You like your psychedelics?
I've dabbled, but I'm definitely interested in finding out as much as I can.
So Terence McKenna is he's the godfather,
Now you
man. If
said
you're
it,
gonna read about
I'm
that.
sure Joe Rogan's mentioned him, I think.
No, I think he's had his brother on there, which is it Bruce McKenna or something like that. I don't know. But no, great book. It's all about societies through the ages, and from almost like what's that stoned ape theory.
Yes.
There's a guy. Oh, what's his name? I forget his name.
Mushrooms from.
Cow shit was that's the original one. But so the whole thing is about how we've progressed through our societies and how psychedelics have changed us as such. Like you see them in all different societies, all different cultures and races that have come through, even different continents. And the way psychedelics have had an impact on those societies and cultures and how they've developed linguistically or what they've become after that with the help of psychedelics. Pretty crazy book, man. Probably my top favorite read. I must have read it 3 times already.
Big book, small book, how thin?
Small book, man. Not too big. Easy
read.
Old
guy, white beard and stuff.
No, you're thinking of Alan Watts.
Okay.
Alan Watts was Reese likes Alan Watts too. We checked that out. He was the first guy to bring Eastern philosophy into the States in the 70s. Okay. So Buddhism, Zen, Shintoism, all that he talks about, mostly Buddhism, all the different sects and everything like that.
Okay.
Alan Watts, I don't know. It depends when you're looking at a picture of him. I'm sure he's grey now.
Yeah. No, this is a guy that was actually on the podcast, though. This is a guy that was on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah, that's his brother. He hasn't been on there. That's his brother.
No problem.
Yeah,
all right,
yeah. No, very interesting guys. He's the authority on psychedelics, natural ones. Dude went into the Amazon, done salvia with the guys, ayahuasca ceremonies, ibogaine in Mexico, and just it changed your whole perception on things. No, that and I'll throw you another one because I know you like the martial arts too. You got to check out the Book of 5 Rings. Miyamoto Musashi. He was the greatest Japanese swordsman. There's a story about him. He gets to the one, and the guy challenges him. Or he challenges the guy. I can't remember exactly. And he tells him, he'll fight him on the beach. And this is it's just medieval Japan. Yeah. So he rocks up there early, and it's on a little island, and he rows over there. He gets off his boat and he sits there with the oar, and he carves himself a bokken. You know what a bokken is? It's it's a wooden sword.
Okay. To train with.
That you used to train. But he's going to fight this guy. It's a fight to the death. This is samurai times. He was a swordsman, and he just went on a bit of a hiatus, I suppose you could say. He just went on a walk, and he traveled around, and he just fought people. He wanted to be the greatest swordsman, and that's what he did. So the whole book is his ethos on fighting and battle. So it's almost the Art of War.
Art of War, yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Same kind of thing, but this is about his style, the style of 2 swords. That's what he does. So it's a wakizashi, which is a little sword, and then he's got his katana, and it's his whole style of fighting with that. But so he goes early to the fight, sits there from the morning, carves the bokken, and he just walks up and down the beach, up and down the beach, up and down the beach. And the guy finally gets there, and he looks at him with his little wooden sword, and he laughs at him. So they start fighting, and as soon as the guy comes at him, he turns around and he starts running. And he runs all the way up the beach. Run. And he gets to a certain point, and he stops. And what he does, he stops in the wet sand. So it's the dry sand. But the guy, he's on the wet sand, the guy's on the dry sand. So he's slower. And as he stops, he doubles back, and he hits him once to the side of the head as the guy strikes, and he kills him dead. Boom, on the spot. And it's the whole story is about your preparation, and where you choose to fight is more important than your tool that you're fighting with at the end. So you've prepared so much, you've got to know the lay of the land. So he gets there, he takes him to his spot that he knows where he's got the advantage in the sand, and he hits him once against the side of the head, and he's dead. And so the whole book's like that. Like, you'll see him, he explains how to fight multiple opponents and that. It's all quite cryptic, but a great book. If you're into martial arts, that's what it'll change the way you view fighting. I think that's a big thing too, especially if you're gonna go forward too, because at the end of the day, anyone can go headstrong into something. But if you take those 5 minutes to sit back and think, you might find those little gaps that are the important things.
No, that's fair.
So I'll give you two. They're both so small that you could read both as one book.
Have you read The Richest Man in Babylon?
No.
There you go. There's a fair trade. Yeah? That's a good one.
All right, cool.
It's not super long either. In fact, I can send you the PDF if you. I don't know if you read. Do you like paper books?
No. I'm a paper guy.
So am I, to be fair. But I've got a few. I've got a few PDFs at the moment. But yeah. All right. But that's a good one. Recommend it. Even if you look on the Too Much Information page, I put a couple of quotes on there, so you can see kind of the thing. But it's similar to that, where it's lessons in almost cryptic ways, but about finances and how to, plan for your family's future and certain things. But it's a good book, great book.
Okay, yeah, I'll give that a check out. That sounds pretty good.
All right. Unless there's anything you want to ask me? Anything you want to ask me before you?
No, I'm all right. I enjoyed that. I think we got most of it out there. Yeah, I'm good, man. I'll definitely give that a look. I needed a lockdown read anyway.
Yeah. Give that one a good. That's a great book. I just can't wait for lockdown to be over.
I'll see you on the mats, bro.
Definitely,
I'm back again solidly when I get back to.
That's great stuff. And now I know you live around the corner from the gym. There's no excuse. You need to be there.
No, my break's over. I can't wait to get back. I'm sitting here.
Yeah. All right, my bro. Thank you so much for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
You're more than welcome, man. And I'll let you know. It's probably going to be a couple of weeks before it comes out. Just because, cool, but I'll definitely let you know.
All right, sweet. Thanks for having me, sweet.
No, you're welcome, man. Thank you, bro. Take care.
Take it easy, man. You too. Man. All right. Bye, cheers, brother.